She lives an exceedingly long time, and well, does Aranas know how long Dragonkin live?
They typically do have the same longevity as like a human who like may be able to be infused by magic could, like 2 to 3 centuries perhaps at best. For someone of his power, Aelor the Draco Druid, probably in that range, 2 to 3 centuries.
Yeah, because at some point she'd grow bored. Uh, though perhaps a new land of elven expansion would mitigate that somewhat with colonial treasure and whatnot. It certainly is a big change, and he will not be able to make a decision immediately. He will ask Aelor after a little bit of contemplation, so to say, and so, given that I think I understand what it is that you would have happen, how do you see me aiding you in this directly?
I think that you would be better at convincing the nobility and the court of your mother better than I would. I can't just show up there. I do have a reputation that isn't the most favorable, and they would see it as some sort of a power play, which, quite frankly, it is me looking for power. But there is also considerable reason in what I am doing. Make no mistake about that. I am very much interested in my own survival too, which again cannot do if the entire world is blanketed in ice and death, which is what the Wizard King will do.
Nods again and says, I understand. He sort of licks his lips slightly and says, there is much reason, and yet there's also many dangers that I must consider. He looks to Ajax. What does Ajax look like when this is spoken of?
Ajax looks between both Aelor as well as yourself. He has a hesitant look on his face. We'll use your same role. It doesn't look as if he entirely agrees with Aelor and was perhaps just compromising here.
Well, I shall certainly have a talk with him as well later. Well, he will look to Aelor and says, I shall consider this. Perhaps for some time. I shall
I understand. I know certainly that it would take some time as well to travel all the way to see your mother and then try to win her over through whatever. He like wiggles like a claw in the air because your mom has a reputation.
he sort of looks at Aelor and says, should I do so, it might be difficult to contact you again. I do not have magical means of doing so, and I do not think, even if I did, that they would work in this place. Would there be a way in which I could give you a signal or some such that we would need to speak again?
He bobbles his head. A means can be arranged by you the time that you leave. Otherwise, if you need to speak with me again before you leave, you wander around to the woods. We'll find each other.
No, he's used to that's how things work. If you want to go somewhere, just go there without thinking about where it is.
fucking
Like,
wood, right?
I want to go to the edge of the forest, and you just sort of walk where you want to go, and then you end up there. Yeah, it's great.
Yes. But yes, once you leave, though, by the time you're going, we'll figure out a way for you to contact me, and perhaps me you, before then. He looks a bit over his shoulder, sort of like perhaps at the conclave area, and bangs. I don't know how much time directly we have. I do want to take action as quickly as possible. I do know that your aunt is, of course, going to take her sweet time gathering as many people as possible, perhaps in a bid to try and either outpatience me or force me into some stupid mistake. She does, I believe, rightly fear me, because I will make a difference, and perhaps she just can't accept that.
As much as I shall attempt to reach her, as well as I shall speak to the many gathered here, see what their opinion is on this, and learn from them of the way of the druids. I believe that Even with the knowledge that I have, that I know way too little of this way of life.
Well, I'm sure that you certainly will have some ease in fitting in here. Many do recognize you, Prince.
He gives a respectful nod and says, "Then I shall return to my compatriots and make sure that they do not get too lost. I am somewhat responsible for their safety and for their conduct while they are visiting here."
One also thing that would be required is, well, we would need an effective means of communicating with the Dragon Empire in order to coordinate things, and it might do the Dragon Empire well to have someone they can trust here. Might want to have someone like, that Teraptus fellow to stay here, be like an envoy of sorts, so that we can talk and he can send messages back. That is why he is here. It's just good to see that Pertinax has changed his mind on the whole affair. Glad that he's seen reason at least.
As I understand it, he has been missing for a long time and was quick to change things when he returned. Though I do not know the heart of it. The Dragon Empire's politics is not something I have studied very thoroughly.
Why don't you make that same roll again for me that you just made?
Sure, I can certainly do that.
Okay. Maelor and Ajax share a look at each other and discussing Pertinax, but Aranas can't put anything more into that other than the two of them looking at each other when that's mentioned. Mm-hmm. So I said, all right then. Well, Ajax, if you'd mind seeing the prince out, I'm confident that he could find his own way, but propriety, they all saw him leave with you. Ajax nods and says, very well, Maelor. If you'll come with me, Prince.
I'll nod.
The corpulent Draco Druid will waggle his fingers like in a waving gesture at you.
Yes, we'll return the gesture in sort of a more elven, graceful, single hand motion of parting.
The Draco Druid will then waddle away. He is an obese fellow for sure.
Yes, is also no longer used to being named prince, as the circles he has been in have not really held up to that title much. It's not been something he's been drawing attention to. As he walks back with Ajax, he'll first give a little bit of a pause to see if Ajax wants to start a conversation.
Ajax actually will. Ajax will say, hopefully you understand, Prince Aranas Vaelduth, why Aelor did not simply greet you himself. He does have a reputation about him, and your traveling companions, particularly Teraptus, may have responded in an immediately hostile way, despite his mission being one of diplomacy.
I understand that there has been some rumors, at least, but would you perhaps enlighten me in the short term of what this reputation would...
Ajax says, certainly, it's not something that you would not know by asking your companions. Aelor the Draco Druid used to be the right-hand man of the Blue. He largely assisted her for a number of decades in harnessing the power from the sea and spinning it for the Blue's own sorcerer's energies. Aelor is everything that your aunt is not. He is decisive and aggressive, and a worthy and capable leader. He has, however, at least adopted a stance which he looks back to Aranas and then beyond, as if he's looking over his shoulder, and says that it's better that we attempt something to stop this unnatural cold affair than not. And I am willing to agree with that, although I have a more hostile attitude towards the Empire.
I'll just say, I understand as well that he sort of seems a little bit puzzled and says, I had heard that he had worked with the intellect assassin that we were attempting to destroy.
At this point, Ajax gets a very severe and angry expression on his face and says, "No, not Aelor."
Speaks and says, "I see. I shall attempt to confirm my sources. Perhaps you would be interested in speaking to her yourself."
Ajax says, "Who? The Aurelia one?"
Says, "No, it would be Priestess Ulia, who once served the Great Silver Worm, and who was slain protecting the place.
Oh,
She, I believe, has quite some information on the attack and who participated."
Ajax swivels his head to look forward and continues to walk to lead
"I'd
Aranas.
be glad, as a service to you, to that we could have a conversation between us."
I do not think that will be necessary, Prince Aranas. I know what I believe. I do not think Aelor would have involved himself in such an abhorrent creature. He has already involved himself with many abhorrent creatures, but that particular one, I would disagree. As a result, I would not be reasonable, my prince. I've already made up my mind, as it were.
Aranas sort of just puts his palm sort of flat out in a slight gesture, as he did when he delivered the silver amulet, and says, "There are people in other places who choose to look at things more objectively, perhaps, and see that the popular opinion might not be the prevailing one. But if that is what you wish, then I shall not push too hard for you to change your opinion. That is not my place."
Ajax, Aranas will notice he doesn't look back at Aranas, and Ajax's step does quicken.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my prince. I've known Aelor for some time. I just don't think that's him.
Yes, I simply suggest that you would hear out the priestess. I do not think she has found many an ear that would listen to her tales, but I believe perhaps that you could find some understanding between us. Perhaps you could inform her of why it could not be.
Perhaps then you could make a roll to try and convince Ajax.
Sure. I believe my best suited background for that would be that I'm a well-educated prince at the Elven Court. I have grown up in, the Elven Court, with all the politicking and talking and convincing people of your opinion that entails. I've had the royal education, generally, conserved for potential future queens, which certainly also has a lot of being able to work out an argument in it.
What's that background valued at?
2.
Okay. I would then say that I would allow that to apply and give an extra +2 bonus onto it because of your current interaction with Ajax thus far.
Mm-hmm. All right, that would be the same roll as I just rolled twice.
All right, neat. Ajax stops walking and looks back. He clearly looks nervous. He says, "All right, I do have some business to handle, though. Obviously you'd want to speak with her first, but at another time, perhaps before you leave, and handle whatever it is you do outside of the Wildwood, Prince, that I would at least listen to her, though I do not think that Aelor would be responsible for such a thing."
Mm-hmm. There's not really wanting to press too hard right now, as he says, "I shall speak to her then, and I thank you." He says, "for this and for you introducing me to Aelor."
Of course, Prince Aranas. Ajax whips his head around, his composure mostly gone, and actually begins to stalk back to like where your companions are.
Aranas will follow in his graceful elven steps, used to walking in this sort of woodland terrain, almost not noticing whatever shrubs or little rocks or whatever might be there, just not even thinking about it as he passes through the area.
It's good. Ajax is just as familiar. He's also walking with speed. He will lead you back to the grove. Not really stop to have any other pleasantries. Just basically go handle his business, walk away. Power walking.
Will step, looking slightly over his shoulder, and then look to the others to see what they've been up to.
Mostly tents, I would assume.
Has anyone put up Aranas' tent?
Sure. You have important diplomatic business
Like a
to do.
fine
Aurelia can
silk
silk your
tent.
tent.
See,
If this will
Super
help.
pretentious.
Hey, you think yours is pretentious? I mean, Jasmine's is pretty pretentious. It has a sigil and everything.
Yeah,
Aranas
we'll probably have
does
made a
a
campfire sitting to
sigil.
making some food or something.
Campfire, maybe not so good idea.
yes. The fire would get some degree of frowning, but so long as you practice safe fire control, you won't be crushed. You better believe that a fire will not go, like, spreading wildly around here.
We're not trying.
Yes.
Just pick up like dead branches and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
the fire is acceptable. Yeah, sure. There's plenty of like refuse and stuff to like light a blaze and like make
Chop
a controlled
down the
fire.
living trees. Only use half of them as we...
There is some smoke coming from inside to outside of Lord Travis's tent, possibly from his pipe, most likely from his pipe.
Probably from his pipe.
grass. that
Yeah,
grows in it.
Astrid stands
burning
on
trees.
guard, like slowly walking around the tent on occasion to watch for threats.
I'll sort of move closer and see. I imagine the others sort of sitting outside us, just talking about whatever. Or...
Yeah.
Is
Eyes
Uli,
turning towards Aranas as he returns.
is Ulia around?
She is. She has been sitting in gentle repose upon perhaps a fallen log that's been like rolled up. Though she does look up as Aranas approaches, her intense eyes boring at the elf.
He'll perhaps give her a slightly nervous look, something he rarely does. Perhaps saying more than it should. She will go to sit down as well.
She does not have any particular vocal reaction for his nervous look. Perhaps she didn't notice.
Well, looks he doesn't say. I imagine you are interested to know what Ajax had to speak to me about personally.
Yes, indeed.
You'd sort of hoped they would say no, but
It is, of course, always an interest to know what's going on.
nonsense, understandably. I am not entirely here as simply a bodyguard for your Raptors or superior to Raptors. I also act in my generally official capacity as a diplomatic envoy of sorts for the Elven Court. It was business related to that and the potential involvement of the Mercurial Court in future alliances with the Druids.
It is not exactly surprising that you are acting in, as you say, your official position. I am, however, curious if you think whether you've made any progress for our cause.
Luxon says, it seems that there are contentions about what or who the High Druid is.
Yes, I have heard that there's not only the current High Druid, but also the Draco Druid, Aelor, I believe he is called, who would like to claim that particular spot in the hierarchy.
Not. Particularly, it was his opinions that I was introduced to. It seems that he would not prefer war with the Dragon Empire, but rather concessions and then alliances, as we are to fight the Lich King and stop the eternal winter.
Which we know for a fact hardly makes sense, him being the former right-hand Draco Druid of the blue, and the free thoroughly in alliance with the Lich King.
Someone says, I do believe he was genuine in his desire. Perhaps his work with the blue was not out of ideology, but simple power grab, as he admitted to this being as well.
And
Or
what
he's a good liar.
better power grab there is than to still serve the beings that would be the only ones ruling the next whatever comes after this age has completely succumbed to coldness.
His suggestion was that a powerful alliance by blood with the Mercurial Court could bring the Druids and the Elves into an alliance that could, by the two of them, stabilize the next age. I do believe that the court has such power, and looks around, the Druids certainly have quite some power as well, if it has not been allowed to stabilize for as long.
Why would someone like Aelor, however, be interested in stability when what he just did very recently caused quite the opposite? He unchained the blue.
I don't imagine he is.
That is indeed the issue, isn't it? As Aranas will look to Aurelia. I spoke on my way back to Ajax about this exact problem. Ajax seemed very unwilling to believe or even contemplate that Aelor might have worked with this being. However, looks to Aurelia, I believe you had some proof that it indeed happened.
Proof? Aurelia sneers, which is not an expression that has been seen on her face. She says, what I felt was real. There was no other entity within the entire city of Dragonhall that could have acted and done as much as had been done to the tower as Aelor himself. No chance. To fathom such a possibility would be to invite the idea that the High Druid herself had done such a thing, or that the Blue was somehow not even bound by the contract, which is entirely absurd.
And there's no possibility that whoever did this actively tried to deceive Aurelia. She was dead. There was no reason to.
The hole was blasted through while I was still alive, but there are few individuals in this world that I could think of that would be capable of violating that power, not to mention weakening Elrenara enough to kill her.
The Draco Druid Aelor seeks to take over as the new High Druid. Says,
She puffs out her cheeks.
Aurelia, I was able to convince Ajax to perhaps speak with you on the matter, so perhaps you could, in a calm way, explain to him exactly what you saw, what you noticed. He is a druid as well and knows Aelor, well, he thinks at least well, which might allow him to recognize that there could indeed not be such things done by anyone else.
Aurelia makes a dismissive hand gesture. What is there to say that this Ajax also is not an agent of the three? My understanding from what I have heard in my time in Horizon with you all is that Ajax is one of the warmongers who wants to incite a conflict. And while I don't inherently care about that, as I do think that ages come and ages go, and the time for the Dragon Empire may be at end, I'm not entirely sure I am convinced of seeing any value in convincing this Ajax.
Looks at her and says, As it stands, you have seen this, and we have not. And you were sent here to aid us, and I do believe that aiding Ajax in seeing perhaps that Aloy is not telling the entire truth to him will also aid him in making a better decision for the High Druids in the future, for him to aid the people as they are. If he is truly an ally of the Three, then perhaps if it is revealed that the Three has worked with this creature, this intellect assassin, he would change his allegiance. A chance for him to, if he has evil ways, turn away from them, I believe, is something that is very valuable to give to someone.
Alea's anger deflates. Her face gives a defeated look, which turns into a resigned look, which turns into an accepting look. I'll speak with him.
Aranas will give her a thankful nod. Those eyes will probably convey some understanding and perhaps a bit of an apology that this is necessary. It's obviously painful for her to talk about and think about.
She mumbles, though it is loud enough over the campfire, that any wretch, no matter how deep their depravity or grotesque their form, may, with hard work, attain redemption.
Mm-hmm. Something that Aranas, to some degree, believes as well. In the good of his heart, or at least wants to believe.
He also, yes, Dark, into an accepting look as she switches to combat. I'm not losing this intrigue.
Beyond that, it was also suggested that, sort of lowers his voice slightly, looking to Trapstant, that should a change in leadership for the High Druid appear, that a diplomat might be needed to stay here so that the Dragon Empire could more easily contact their new allies, the Druidic peoples. If such were to exist, then perhaps Teraptus would be required to stay behind to serve as this envoy.
Oh, he would not like that.
I imagine not, but...
Tempus, you're the one who's best looking and not so distracted. You see, perhaps with Mage Hand, like one of the tent flaps, like slowly moving. Just you, Tempus.
Tempus just will sort of, one of his eyebrows very slowly lift, but he'll just keep his eyes look at his peripheral vision at this, wondering something's happening.
The tent
it might, however, become necessary if peace is indeed to be found. And it is why we came here, is it not?
Doesn't mean he's gonna like it.
Doesn't mean that he has to like it.
No.
As regardless, I should wish to see if I can speak to the current High Druid. Perhaps.
You think you will get an audience?
I have a connection with her that most do not, that might perhaps allow me a step inside. I would like to see what her opinion on this matter is, and how she would feel about Aloy.
Might be good.
Actually, with that sentiment expressed, that the butterflies that Aranas has spotted trailing after him do flutter out of the tree line and actually come very close to Aranas, like start fluttering around him.
He will slowly stand up again, look at them.
What are you doing?
It's almost like a whispering effect conveyed through the wings themselves. You have attracted considerable interest, Prince, and your aunt would like to speak with you. And perhaps your companions, too, if they would wish to come along. But specifically, you. Her nephew.
Is this said like loud or?
Oh,
no?
yeah, that could definitely be heard across the entire campsite.
Well, that's awkward. He sort of looks to the others.
As Jasmine looks over with her imperious look.
It would seem that we have our invitation.
Excuse me?
It seems so.
Oh, did we hear it actually?
Yeah, the butterflies, through their rubbing the wings together, made that voice, which is not exactly like a sound that Geráck can really say he's heard before, but they were most definitely words that conveyed that.
Oh, okay.
Say, Aranas, if the butterflies are not lying, or looks confused for a moment, I do know that the High Druid is supposed to be the sister to the Queen, with you apparently being her aunt.
She would be mine.
Yeah, sorry, that was my that.
English!
Keep going.
With you apparently being her nephew, I do believe there's some sort of important information missing about what your actual position in the Court of Elves would be.